All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So today I wanted to make a video about the bodybuilder Craig Titus. Now, many of you probably know Craig Titus as being the bodybuilder that was convicted of murder several years back. Him and his wife at the time, Kelly Ryan, were both implicated in the death of their personal assistant, Melissa James, while living in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, this is relevant to the channel because Craig was actually a very popular and somewhat successful bodybuilder back in the 90s and early 2000s. He was really well known. He was in all the magazines. He did all the interviews. He had a sponsor, and he was just a very well-known bodybuilder at the time. So that's what makes him especially relevant to the channel. And his wife, Kelly Ryan, was also a fitness competitor at that time. So they were both involved in the industry, and it was a very high-profile murder case. A lot of people may remember seeing it on 2020 and Dateline. It was on TV and everything, so it was a very big deal. I personally remember watching the Dateline episode on TV, and that was the first time that I had ever heard of it. So let's get to Craig Titus's bodybuilding career because that's what makes him relevant to the channel. So his stage weight was 242 pounds on stage and 265 to 270 pounds in the off season at 5'8". So pretty big bodybuilder. 242 pounds at 5'8" is a pretty big dude on stage. So his competitive career includes all the major shows: the Arnold Classic, the Olympia, the Night of Champions, the Ironman, and some pretty decent placings at some of those shows. So he had a couple top 6 finishes at the Arnold Classic, but still nothing really noteworthy. He never had any top 3s there. At the Olympia, he placed 12th in 2001. His best finishes are pretty much at the Ironman Pro Show, which at the time was considered one of the top 3 or 4 shows, in the early 2000s and in the 90s. So he placed 6th at the 2005 Ironman. He placed 5th at the 2004 Ironman. He placed 3rd at the 2003 Night of Champions, which is now the New York Pro, so that's a pretty good finish for him. 11th at the 2002 Mr. Olympia. 5th at the 2002 Night of Champions. 12th at the 2001 Mr. Olympia. 6th at the 2001 Arnold Classic. 5th at the 2001 Ironman. And then he has a 11th place finish at his first Night of Champions, which was in the year 2000, and a 10th place finish at the 2000 Arnold Classic, which again was the first year he competed as a pro. So pretty good bodybuilder, competed in all the big shows, so he's a pretty big name in the IFBB. So let's get to the murder case here. So this girl, Melissa James, was Craig Titus and Kelly Ryan's assistant at the time. And initially, Craig Titus did admit that he and Melissa James were having an affair at the time, so that really played into, kind of a motive for why this girl was murdered, and maybe that Kelly Ryan maybe had more to do with it, but really Craig Titus took the blunt of the punishment when the conviction came down in 2008. So like I said, in 2008 was the official conviction. He was convicted of second-degree murder, kidnapping, and arson. He's still in prison today, and he was sentenced to 21 to 55 years in prison. And Kelly Ryan was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of 3 to 13 years in prison. So her charge was a lot less than his was. So he definitely took the brunt of that punishment. So let's get back to the actual murder itself. So the autopsy of the body of Melissa James showed that she had toxic levels of morphine in her body. There was wire marks around her neck. There was duct tape over her face and marks that appeared to have been from a stun gun. So this was a pretty violent murder. The cause of death actually shows that it was probably the fact that she was beaten to death and then her body was burned. So it was really kind of a disturbing case. So she was beaten, drugged, tasered, injected with morphine, strangled, and burned. So it was a very brutal, violent murder. So it's not like this was just like an accidental thing. It's not like this was some, crime of passion that just happened real quick. This was like a really well thought out, really deep, really brutal murder. So Craig Titus took the brunt of the punishment in regards to this murder, and Kelly Ryan got a lot less of a punishment, which is really kind of bullshit in a lot of people's opinions, because a lot of people think that Kelly actually did it and Craig just kind of took the fall out of love for her. Later on, Craig would go on to do a bunch of interviews against, the IFBB and against current pro bodybuilders. I remember he did a video about Jay Cutler, an interview about Jay Cutler, where he was talking shit about Jay Cutler's chin and his jawline, and how much Jay Cutler abused drugs. Just talking about growth hormone and all the effects that growth hormone has. I believe the people that he did the interview with was at Steroids Are for Losers website. I'm sure you guys have seen them comment various YouTube videos or seen them in various places on the internet. But I remember for a long period of time, he would do these interviews from his jail cell with that website or some similar website that was against steroid use. And he would just talk just a bunch of shit about the IFBB and pro bodybuilding and all that stuff. So he kind of really turned his back on bodybuilding once he was in prison. And I believe he also was evangelized to become a very devout Christian. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to read a little bit more about the case and about Kelly Ryan and Craig Titus, you can go look it up. But essentially, you know, he's basically just implicated in a very brutal murder. He was having an affair. He was convicted and charged with second-degree murder, and he was a pro bodybuilder. So that basically sums up the story. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.